Hello, this is Kara from Kara Tarot with a general reading for Thursday, May 15th, 2025. But I'm also seeing how much I can cram into one video. So it will not just be a general reading, it's going to be a deck interview. And I've used my deck interviews as general readings before. Um, and then it's going to be a flip through of this deck that is not a tremendously new deck, but it's a new deck to me and a different style for me, as you will see. And I'm creating a hashtag first I'll start by saying, and the deck that I'm going to be using today is the Tarot of the Enchanted Soul by Yasmeen Westwood. She was also the creator of Tarot of the Enchanted Dream and also the Westwood Tarot. So if you like her style, and I do find it appealing, it's just not my typical style. And it's collage, and you know I love collage. So this is the deck that I will be using. The spread that I'm going to be using is by Whitsunday Oracle, and it is actually a deck interview spread. And here's where we get to the content issue. About a month ago, I did a hashtag, Does the Deck Matter? It wasn't an official hashtag, but it was a VR to Tarot Magpie. We're taking the same reading and the same questions and using 3 different decks to see the variations that you get in the reading. So today I am asking, does the question matter? And of course, the question does. But we'll see that the goal is to kind of show that in action using the same deck, the same cards, the same spread, and just modifying the question slightly as depends on what the question is going to be. Now, if you're only interested in the flip through of and seeing the cards of the deck, I'll put a timestamp because that will be the last thing in this reading. So I'll start with a general reading because some of you are just here for that. The general reading for May 15th. What are you here to teach me? So this will be a question about your day. Again, I'm modifying a deck interview spread. So what is this day going to teach me? How can I best work in this day? What will be the strengths? What will be my strengths today? What will be my limitations today? And this initial question is, what will our relationship be like? And so I'm kind of shifting this question to just what will my interactions be like today? And then general advice for the day. As you can see, I'm having to modify this a little bit because of the space. These are large cards. You know I like large decks. I've said that before. So we're going to get started now with the general reading. So what is this day going to teach me? I'd say with the Page of Swords, we have this, I actually really love this representation of the Page of Swords, a very young child, a young girl, with a sword that looks like ice. So it really is kind of a sword of the imagination with wings on her head, so more imagination. This deck includes keywords, so I'll throw them into written message, communication, ideas, information, inspiration, and direct. So that's one thing you can say about a lot of the swords is that they're about being direct, about cutting through, even in communication and ideas. The Page of Swords is this sweet messenger. And again, I've discussed the imagination taking flight, and here we have these light up here, the light in the imagination, and the deep blues of serenity. So we have this combination of serenity and imagination. Another thing that's often associated with the Page of Swords, like the High Priestess, is a little bit of secretiveness. Now, often what will be said about the Page of Swords is that this is a young person who was working behind the scenes to help you. So if this is what the day is teaching you, it will be to use your imagination, be open and more childlike, cut through a lot of unnecessary thoughts to find the light, and you can keep some things to yourself. The second question, how best can I work with this day? This is the Justice card. And I will say that this is a card that I'm not crazy about. There's just something about it that uh, the presentation of it and of this person, I don't know if it's a little too Boy George for me. I don't. um, but this is the Justice card. So the words here are justice, balance, fairness, impartiality, legal matters, and wisdom. So how can I best work with this day? And so I take my knee-jerk reaction to this card because I love all of the concepts in this card, and I love the greens and the roses. So I would say that for us today, what we need to do is to set aside our first impressions. This is a day when we need to look beyond the surface of things and try to get to the inner beauty, the ideas of justice and fairness, things that we can all get on board with. Um, and so that needs to be our focus for today, along with this innocence and this would go along with um, cutting through the superficial aspects and really trying to see the person within, the, the, the goodness within. What will be the strengths of your day? The Three of Cups, companionship, joy, celebration, party, supportive friends, pleasure, social contact, emotional happiness, and joy. We have three penguins having really a grand old time together with balloons. And again, we have more light. We also have the moon. So we have a combination of straightforward light and reflected light, intuition combined with the actual light, and then the light of friends here. So that's a great thing that you have going for you today is Three of Cups. What limitations will I find today? Three of Swords. Both threes, if you notice. The highlight and the low light are both threes. Heartbreak, loss, betrayal, emotional pain, separation, sadness, trauma, tears. Again, the threes are a little bit off balance. They're going to be throwing you kind of forward. If it were a chair and you sat down wrong, it would throw you forward off the chair or backward. This may throw you forward, this throws you backward. But usually this Three of Swords is a card of great sadness. So the limitation of today, we have joy as the highlight and sorrow. So when you put those together, that limitation of today may be that they're going to be big extremes today, and which is why you will kind of need this justice and this cutting through and this innocence, because what's going to be coming at you are two big extremes. What will my relationships today be like? What my interactions be like? 10 of coins. You can't ask for much more than that. Home, stability, family, security, inheritance, legacies, reputation, affluence. So this is telling you it's overall going to be a very good day. And this is what your interactions will be like. They will probably get you through. Well, it certainly fits with this, the celebrations, but this will help you get through this externally, and then internally these things will be helping you. And the general advice for the day, the star, renewal, hope, inspiration, serenity, calm, wishes, dreams, healing, and miracles. Now, all these lovely, sparkly things about the star are also going to help you deal with this darker element of the day. So we have all of these things helping you deal with the day. And notice most of these are transitory. These are the two that are going to be major elements that may last longer today, and they may have been before today. So you want to be looking for justice as a theme that's going through your life right now, as well as hope. Um, I certainly can extrapolate that to what's going on here in the States, is that we are seeking justice and we're trying to hold on to hope, even though it can be quite difficult with the extreme fluctuations of every day. So that's our general reading for today, Thursday the 15th, May 2025. Now, I will say that I also added a card from the bottom of the deck to go alongside the star. And the way that I looked at these was as a pairing. Now, some people may immediately recoil and say, oh, death. Endings, beginnings, transition, transformation, regeneration, renewal, rebirth. I do not look at this as a definitive and actual death or a literal death. And this particular depiction of death is quite lovely. We have this kind of ghostly person here looking to this tree and new growth. Certainly, if you believe in heaven and if you believe that you're going to heaven, you have a hope that you are, a belief that it goes with this hope that you are going to move on to something greater. So I would say this hope and transformation working together in your day. And that would be my final take on this reading for the general reading. So let's just set that aside. And now we're going to do the hashtag, does the question matter? So now we're going to look at this as originally intended, as a deck interview. And this was my deck interview. So the slant of the questions will just be different. So the initial question is, what are you as a deck here to teach me? So a lot of these things remain the same. The innocence, the ability to cut through unnecessary things, seeing through the veil, having imagination, and focusing on the light. These are all things that this deck can teach me. And I will use this one as being about me because this is my deck interview. And that's just another difference in how we're reading the same cards differently. How can I best work with you? So I already told you how I feel about this card. And this is the Justice card. And I love the concept of the Justice card in general. So it's really important for me then with this deck. And I did tell you this deck isn't necessarily my usual style. It's a style I do like, but and even though it's collage, it's not my usual visual style. Something that doesn't come up much in these cards, although it does here, is there are a lot of photographic faces in this deck, which is something I've said before. That's too people-y for me. I generally do not like realistic depictions of faces. Both of these, actually. It's mitigated a little bit by the fact that they are often very costumed, as with this. So that's where my previous thoughts about this card, being able to look beyond my initial superficial reaction to the meaning of the card and look deeper into the depths of the card. I see this, not only this lovely kind of star diadem on the front of the magician's hat there, and that, even though this is the Justice card, again we have a sword. We have a sword going straight into the ground, which is a great symbol of strength and planting yourself in justice. In justice, not injustice. Planting yourself in justice with this kind of planetary glow behind, as well as the passion. Justice does involve passion. We have to have a passion for justice. So, how can I best work with this deck would be to ignore the superficial representations that bother me and really explore the card to give it the fairest representation of each card. What are the strengths of this deck? The strengths of this deck is community and joy and happiness. Now here I really see the moon and and that a lot of this appears to be underwater, because here we have the surface of the water. So that immediately tells me that this deck, the strength of it is going to be more intuitive. And that even though there's champagne and cakes and cookies and a very comfortable chair, that all of this has to do with the comforts of going deep inside. The light, the umbrella, the balloons, all of that is submerged. So this great joy of this deck is going to be the intuitive aspect of reading these cards. What are the deck's limitations? The Three of Swords: heartbreak, sorrow, loss, betrayal, emotional pain. And yet, we have blue. So this deck has a lot of blue in it, but here we have a lot of blues. We have the blues with the Three of Swords, of course. And we have these blue teardrops coming from this. My initial thought when I saw this for the limitations of the deck is that this deck might not be good for more serious readings. However, as I've already seen from what I've read of the cards so far, I don't think that's what this really means. Because if you're going to be intuitive and look beyond the surface of things, that immediately tells you that it is going to be good for deeper things, or sadness. And then this tells me what are the deck's limitations. Could be that this is a deck that helps bring you out of this. So this is a deck that is going to be uplifting, and that could be seen as a limitation for some. This perhaps means it's not a good deck for those who want to do shadow work, because, at least for me, working with me, but I don't do shadow work anyway, so that's fine. This Three of Swords as a limitation is telling me that it's not going to leave you there. It's not going to leave you here with these things. It's going to lift you out of it. What will our relationship be like as a deck? And here again, we have the Ten of Coins: home, family, stability, security, inheritance, legacies, reputation, and affluence. I couldn't ask for anything more from an interaction with a deck, for a relationship for me to have with a deck. This is it. This is the home fires, feeling completely at home with something. And even the joy, the childish joy, the innocent joy of Christmas, and that anticipation of presents. So, again, a happiness. Advice for me as a reader, then, is the question for this final deck interview, and that's the star. The sparkling sky of the renewal, hope, inspiration, serenity, calm, wishes, dreams, healing, miracles. This was my final card. This tells me that just tells me again that this deck is going to be hopeful. This kind of reinforces what I thought this might mean in that position. This deck is going to be hopeful. This is going to leave you with inspiration, serenity, calm, wishes, dreams. It's a deck for healing these things. So this deck does not want to leave you here. This deck wants to leave you here, even if it's on an intuitive level and an interior level. And then, of course, I decided to pick the card from the bottom of the deck to add, to supplement this, the messages for me as a reader, and it's death. And again, I don't see that as a negative addition. I see that as a transformative and hopeful addition. This may mean that this will be the ending of ways that I've read decks in the past, that this deck is going to help me. I've actually been thinking, even though I've always considered myself to also be intuitive, but I think I told you I kind of got, a couple years ago now. I decided to get reinvested in really learning the book meanings of the cards. And so I think this is an indicator, and I have been feeling that I want to come out of that now. And now I want to once again explore the intuitive aspect of the cards in tandem with my strengthened knowledge of the academic meanings. And that's not a good word. It has a negative connotation. So just the book meanings of the cards. I've always wanted to combine these things, which is why I wanted to strengthen my book meanings of the cards and compare them and contrast them, which I've been doing with my 5 on Deck series, because the breadth of any book definition of any card can be huge, especially when you include Tarot de Marseille and more historic decks. The breadth of the meaning just becomes that much wider. But this happens to coincide with this time period when I'm feeling I'm ready to reinvest in my intuitive reading side. And I think this card is telling me that along with this hope and inspiration, this deck will be very good for that. And I do think there are some decks that are a little better for exploring your intuitive meanings. These kind of shadowy images, um, I think are very good for intuitive reading because they take you out of the literal, which again is why I usually don't like photographic faces, because they take me to a very literal place. So I think this additional card is telling me that aspect as well with this deck. So you see that um, that's that reading that's the hashtag reading. Do the questions make it? Do the questions make a difference? And of course, we knew that they do. That's the whole point of reading the cards, is that you could have the same 5 cards for every question anybody comes at you with, and you would, assuming depending on the deck, you would see different things in them. And that's especially true if you're trying to delve more into your intuitive or even psychic aspects of understanding the cards and the situation. But I just thought this would be an interesting demonstration of that hashtag. And it was interesting to me going through it right now that I did see different things, or I saw the same thing in a different way, because the question itself triggered a different way of looking at the cards. And and that's just, I think, very interesting. And I really hope other people will do this and join on this hashtag. And it's so interesting to see, first of all, just how other people interpret cards. But then when you get into the intuitive or psychic interpretation of the cards, it can become very, very different. And to see that in tandem with imagery that speaks to you. So it is same cards, same deck, same questions. Uh, I'm sorry, same cards, same deck, same spread, but just a different question being asked. So even using the same spread questions, but the main question that's being asked is different. I think it's pretty clear. So thank you for exploring this with me. And I take this idea as an inspiration that came from this deck. So now I'll just go through and do the flip through of this deck. The cards, of course, are out of order. I'll move those to the top because there she is. Okay. And again, this is The Tarot of the Enchanted Soul by Yasmeen Westwood. It's a red feather deck. Copyright 2022, so it's not new. And it was not expensive. Has the beautiful color photography throughout the book. They have the basics of learning several different spreads. Actually, quite a few spreads. That's very nice, going from small to large. And then she has a full spread of all of the major arcana and then details. And then a page on each one of the minor arcana. So a very nice book, and which I look forward to delving into more. Again, this is the box. The cards are large. I'd say a regular tarot card is about like that in relationship to these cards. So they are larger, and which I like. And now I'll just kind of go through them. Maybe I'll come down a little closer for this part. And for the most part, I'll just be quiet and put some music underneath this. And there you have the flip through. As you can see, it's a little people-y. It does have a fair number of close-ups. I tend not to like those because they take me into the face as opposed to looking at other aspects of the card. But that's not a large proportion of the deck. I actually, I got this thinking that it would go well with an oracle deck that I have by Colette Barton Reed. This artwork also reminds me a bit of the Tarot of Mystical Moments, as well as a Kipper deck that I have, the Christophania Kipper deck. So it's in the art style that I like. This is a bit more pop influenced than I usually have, and for that reason it's different from what I have and makes it a great deck to go out to parties or things, because I think it's something that a lot of different people can see themselves in. It is a diverse deck. It's much more diverse than certainly my historic decks. So there's just a lot to like about it. I would suggest, if you like this, also look up the photos from the same Yasmeen Westwood's Tarot of the Enchanted Dream, and also her Westwood Tarot. The Westwood Tarot is more animal oriented. And the Tarot of Enchanted Dreams, I think, is quite similar to this. So you might look at both of them and then decide which one is more you, because I think it's similar enough that they kind of would fulfill the same place in a collection. So this is the Tarot of the Enchanted Soul. And so we've had the flip through, and we've had the hashtag, does the question matter? And I'm Cara from Cara Tarot. Had the general reading. Have a 3 of Cups day.